guys, if you're new to Deception Bytes, hit the like and subscribe button and be sure to hit the bell to be notified of future videos. If you wish to support the channel, the links are in the description below. Now, fasten your seatbelt. Here we go. All right, guys, I'm back and it is July 12th and we are going to get into some Q-related news. And it's been a while now because Q's been posting steadily, but I've gotten so far behind that I've dropped some of the stories I was going to tell you because they're old now. But there's so much coming out in the news and I didn't want to just ignore it because there's a lot of stuff that if you're not aware, you should be aware because it's related to, Sammy is cleaning himself and he's getting dangerously close to the camera. So let's hope that let's hope that works out well. Anyway, let's get started. Okay, wrong page. Hang on. Wrong page. Hang on. There we go. Here we go. So let me go up to the top. Hopefully Sammy will settle down and lay back down now that he's all nice and clean. But these are some good things that I wanted to make sure that I got to. So I'm going to do the Q-related news. And then later, depending, I may do another video, but it'll be late. The next video will be late because I'm going to have to run some errands in between, and that should take me several hours. So let's just get started here. This by Manny Ottawa, of course, is the owner of Home Depot. And of course, you know that Home Depot, the Liberals are wanting to boycott Home Depot because the owner gives a lot of money to the Trump campaign. So this is his YouTube channel, and it says "Liberal Hate." All because I gave my voice and some of my money to our president. Am I in China, Argentina, Russia? That's what it feels like to me. It saddens me our country has come to this, where I, as a private citizen, cannot express my feelings. And it is sad, because if you express your feelings and you're a business owner and you say, well, I'm going to give some money to support Trump or the Trump campaign, or you have anything up on the walls or any way that supports Trump in any way, the Liberals are going to boycott you. And you are going to get a lot of grief for that. Yeah, you would think that, you know, I thought it was a free country, but it's really not. It's really not. And I'm hoping that that changes rapidly, really, because once you lose those freedoms, there's no going back. You know, it's just like the stuff after 9/11. You know, all the checks at the airport. I remember flying for the first time after 9/11 and just being horrified because of all these checks. Now, I realize that they are necessary, but once your freedom is taken, you don't go back. It's just the way it is. Very rarely do you ever go back, but let's hope that's not the case because we do have Trump in power. And as long as he stays in power, I think we're in pretty good shape. If he loses to a Democrat, then I don't know, to tell you the truth. I don't know what will happen. And I would think that there would probably be unrest because the rest of the country will know for a fact that there was tampering in the election. Now, Trump and Q have said that well, no, maybe not Trump, but Q has stated that the elections are safe, but the midterms certainly weren't safe because we know that they cheated and a lot of those seats should not have gone to Democrats. They should have gone to Republicans. So I'm just hoping. And the other thing is, if they allow in some places, California, if they allow the illegals to vote, then you know who they're going to vote for. And the same thing in Texas, it is full of illegals. And my friend who's in Houston is saying that it's filling up because all these people have to go somewhere. There are thousands coming across the border, thousands and thousands and thousands. You can see it's a steady stream. So they got to go somewhere, and who are they going to vote for? Well, we know who they're going to vote for. So let's just pray. We need to be praying. If you are a believer, pray for our nation, pray for President Trump, give him wisdom, because this is a battle. And we battle not against flesh and blood, but we battle against principalities and in high places. You know, we are not battling flesh and blood per se. Now, many of you may not believe that, and that is fine. You're still welcome here. We can agree to disagree, but that is my opinion. And anyway, let's go on here. So I saw that, and let's look at this. Now, most of you know that Trump held a social media summit, but isn't it interesting that just before the summit, Twitter went out, completely out, and did not come back on until after the summit? Does anyone find that just slightly disconcerting? I don't think it's a coincidence. How often has Twitter gone out? I don't know, because I haven't been on it that long. I've never known it to go out, but maybe it has. Still, it's odd. It's an odd coincidence. So this is the picture, a picture of the social media summit. The conference was on, and it says right now, but of course that was yesterday. And new President Donald Trump references Andy. I'm not sure how to say his last name. NGO is his last name, and I know about the incident where he got attacked by Antifa. So Trump references that incident, calls it a disgrace that he got slugged. President Donald Trump shames Antifa and calls them weak. They're never there when we have a bikers rally. You gotta love that. And President Donald Trump describes how big tech companies, Silicon Valley, are misleading in their meetings with him, promising things will get better. But then 3 or 4 weeks later, it gets worse. Donald Trump announces regulatory solutions will be explored by the administration in order to address the censorship problem. Also, we will ask representatives of the major social media platforms to have a big meeting at the White House within the next month. Media has gone insane trying to smear me over social media summit at the White House. And this is a guy that was there. Fake news writes, observed smear about me over social media summit at the White House. A series of hit pieces have come out about me, many others. Let me just see what, this is a YouTube video.
As you are watching this video.
And I'm not going to play it, but it doesn't surprise me at all. Not sure who this YouTuber, video by @Timcast. So I'm not sure who this person is, but apparently they were at the social media summit and they were attacked by liberal media directly afterwards. About a bunch of smears came out. Now, let's come down here. More lawmakers lean toward revoking Section 230 to regulate big tech companies. That would be good news. Coercion, isn't that autocratic? I'm not sure what that is. All right, so let's go on because we can. And that's the wrong page again. Stop taking me to the wrong page. Okay, and let's look at this because this is one of those things that's going to make you, huh? Really? Look at this. And let me hang on here. Watch. Before she was pandering for black votes, Kamala Bollywood Harris called herself the first Indian American senator. Her ancestors were from Haiti, or not Haiti, Jamaica. How is she Indian in any way? She's not. Let's listen to this.
And California's Attorney General Kamala Harris has scripted history as she won the U.S. Senate seat from the state, becoming the first Indian American to achieve this feat.
Certainly, you could become the first Indian senator in U.S. history, which would be quite an accomplishment.
Not good.
Yeah. Indian American. Isn't that interesting? Indian American. It's becoming so ridiculous that I don't even know what. And And this person said, I believe she is from the Africa-Macon tribe. She was born on a slave ship between the island and the continent. Quite rare heritage, as I understand it, similar to the white Indian tribe of Senator Warren. So, sarcasm. I love it. Oh, okay. Well, it says that's actually far more accurate than African American, since one of her parents is from India and the other Jamaican, or from Jamaica. So, I guess perhaps in part she was the first senator, Indian American senator, but isn't it interesting how she changes that heritage and, concentrates on her black heritage, which really she's not. And her ancestors owned slaves. So, but she panders to the African Americans anyway. She'll go back to being Indian if it gets her the 7-Eleven worker, cheap motel owner vote. Oh, that's a little bit racist, but I understand where they're coming from. I thought her slave-running family was from Jamaica. So anyway, now let's go on because I've got more about Kamala. Now here she is pandering to the blacks. And notice her fake accent. I picked that up right away. I thought, what? She doesn't talk like that. Okay, retweet. Fake Kamala Harris calling herself Rosa Parks, Maya Angelou, pandering to black women of essence. Senator Kamala Harris is not a civil rights warrior. She was not at the creation of voting rights. Harris' ancestors owned slaves. Her father says, even her father says they owned slaves. Wow. Now let's listen to her, shall we? Of course we shall.
The fight of black women has always been fueled and grounded in faith and in the belief of what is possible. We have always built the future that we can see and believe in and fight for. And that's why Sojourner spoke. It's why Mae flew. It's why Rosa and Claudette sat. It's why Maya wrote. It's why Fannie organized. It's why Shirley ran, and why I stand here as a candidate for President of the United States.
Yeah, she doesn't talk that way when you hear her anywhere else, but here she's at the Essence Festival, and I guess she feels it's appropriate or necessary to talk with an accent. And I'm sorry. Just like AOC did the same thing, Clinton did the same thing. It must be a Democrat thing. Just, wherever you go, you take on the accent. Now, I was born in Canada, so I always had a strong Canadian accent. When I went down to the South and lived for most of my adult life, then, I picked up the Southern accent, and I'd call home and everyone would go, what? Because I was around it constantly. And, after several years there, you do pick up the colloquialisms and the accent, and I did. But it's weird because everybody at home, they'd be like, what? Oh my gosh, like you don't talk like that. So, and then when I came back, it's so weird because everybody here says, oh my gosh, where are you from? Like, because I had a Southern accent. It's gone now because I've been home around wherever. But we know she's from California. We know that they don't talk that way. She's never talked that way. But yeah, I guess she thinks that's going to win her the black vote. They want the black vote and the illegal vote. And they're losing the black vote because so many of them are turning away and seeing, you know what? These people are not good for us. Like, they're not doing us any favors. So, yeah, and let's go and look at this. Kamala Harris's ancestors owned slaves, her father says. Presidential hopeful's Jamaican father wrote about his slave-holding ancestor. Senator Kamala Harris is the descendant of an Irishman who owned a slave plantation in Jamaica. According to her father's lengthy ancestral summary of his side of the family, Donald Harris, a Stanford University economics professor, revealed in 2018 that his grandmother was a descendant of Hamilton Brown, the namesake of Brownstown in northern Jamaica. My roots go back within my lifetime to my paternal grandmother, Miss Christina Brown, descendant of Hamilton Brown, who is on record as plantation and slave owner and founder of Brownstown. He wrote in a post for Jamaica Global, Hamilton Brown built the town's local Anglican church, which is where Professor Harris said his grandfather is buried. It is also where he himself was baptized and confirmed. A research archive of Jamaican records indicate that at one point in 1817, Hamilton Brown owned scores of slaves. The majority were brought in from Africa, though he owned many Creole slaves. The Harris campaign has not commented on her father's claims. It did not respond to a request for comment. Well, of course not. NBC News reported on Monday that Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell's two great-grandfathers owned at least 14 slaves between the two of them in Alabama. The report tied McConnell's ancestry to his position on government reparations for slavery, which he opposes. McConnell responded to the report on Tuesday by comparing his stance to former President Barack Obama, who opposed reparations while acknowledging that some of his ancestors owned slaves. You know, I find myself once again in the same position as President Obama, McConnell said. We both oppose reparations, and we both are the descendants of slaveholders. Harris has yet to take a definitive position on reparations for slavery. When the California senator was asked in February whether she supports some form of reparations for Black people, she said she did, but was unclear on how exactly it would be paid out. We have to be honest that people in this country do not start from the same place or have access to the same opportunities, Harris said. I'm serious about taking an approach that we would change policies and structures that make real investments in Black communities. A few weeks later, she distanced her position from explicit payments to the descendants of slaves, saying she views policies aimed at lifting up the poor, such as her tax credit to low-income families, as reparations. Now, you know, if her mouth is open, she's lying. It seems to be rampant across the Democratic platform. So, doesn't surprise me. She's just pandering to whoever's going to get her into office, but there's not a chance, really, unless there's massive cheating that happens. She later told NPR that reparations mean different things to different people. I think the term reparations, it means different things to different people, Harris said. But what I mean by it is that we need to study the effects of generations of discrimination and institutional racism and determine what can be done in terms of intervention to correct course. Well, I think that to a great extent, I'm not saying that more progress doesn't need to be made, but we've come a long way from the 60s even. I mean, a long way, because I remember being taken when I was, oh my gosh, I was very, very young. And I remember holding my mother's hand, and I was thirsty. And I wanted to go to the fountain, but it said for Blacks only. And my mom said, "You're not supposed to drink from there." And I said, "Why?" And she said, well, and then she had to explain to me, you know, what I was seeing. And I said, I was so outraged. I was just so, and I remember being a child and being so outraged and thinking, that's so unfair. But look at how far we've come since then. We had he was sort of Black, president. He wasn't totally Black. But you don't have to be. You can be anything that you want to be, including white. I don't know why being white has become, I can't change my skin color any more than anyone else can. Neither can you if you're white. You can't change your skin color. So, well, I can in the summer, but it's not good for you. Anyway, let's go on here. I don't want to get to chatting because there's lots of stuff to get to. Okay, let's get her off of there. I've seen enough of her. And let's get to okay, we've just looked at that one, and let's look at this. Now, this is from Vote, and it is the Great Awakening Board. And I happened to see this post, and I thought it was very interesting. It says, I think we all missed a coded message to U.S. in Trump's July 4th speech. That wouldn't doubt me. I wouldn't doubt that at all. I think we all missed a few coded messages at the July 4th Trump speech. Some good things most of us spotted when Trump looked straight at the camera and did a Q in the air with his finger, as he has done at rallies before, and then looked away. This was right before he left the podium, and I saw that with my own eyes. He did. He made a Q. But there was more. Be ready, Q. Remember when Q put that post? Be ready, Q. And for God and country, patriots fight, Q. Q dropping breadcrumbs on June 27th, 2019 to give patriots a head up that the end game for defeating the deep state is at hand. The Continental Army suffered a bitter winter of Valley Forge, found glory across the waters of the Delaware and seized victory from Cornwallis of Yorktown. Our army manned the air, it rammed the ramparts, it took over the airports, it did everything it had to do, and at Fort McHenry, under the rockets' red glare, it had nothing but victory, and when dawn came, their star-spangled banner waved defiant. And that is a quote from President Trump in his 4th of July speech, signaling a riddle me this message to the Q movement about patriots being in control of the airports. And of course, back then, there were no airports. So this is interesting, very interesting. Why did he slip that in there? And I do remember listening to that and thinking at the time, airports? Oh, he must have misspoken. But maybe not. Maybe he meant to do that. Eyes on. Excuse me. A yawn just took over my face there, right there. And I didn't want to yawn because then it makes everybody else yawn. How many of you out there are yawning because I yawn? Come on. I knew it. I knew it. I'll try not to do it again. Okay. Eyes on, Anons. Only one aircraft that did fly over Only one aircraft that did flyovers on the 4th of July. Now, you guys all saw the flyovers, right? Trump's speech showed up on radar. Isn't that interesting? There's only one of those planes that did flyovers that day that showed up on radar. And that one's call sign was End Game 20. A Coast Guard hello? It was a Coast Guard helicopter. So the call sign was End Game 20. And interestingly enough, the only one that did a flyover that was seen on radar. So they wanted it to be seen, right? End Game 20 equals end game for 20 Democrats, for the 2020 Democrats. Coincidence? End flippin' game? Put this in your thoughts and listen to Q speech again. POTUS told us it's endgame time. We are the news, referring to the call sign of a U.S. Coast Guard helicopter that, in the context of the riddle Trump posed in his 4th of July speech, indicating that the patriots were in control of the airports, acted as a key to help solve the riddle. The endgame is at hand. The takedown of the deep state will begin soon at an airport, and 2 days later, Jeffrey Epstein was arrested at Teterboro Airport. Hold on to your hat and buckle up. Jeffrey Epstein is the tip of the iceberg, a peek at what's coming. Dear reader, be warned that this article is going to take you down a very deep rabbit hole you may not be able to fully extricate yourself from once you go down it. This is a good article to red pill someone new. So let's take a look, shall we? Alrighty. Jeffrey Epstein is the tip of the iceberg, a peek at what's coming. Well, I'd like to know myself, wouldn't you? This by Paul Dowling. Be ready, Q, for God and country, patriots fight. Q dropping breadcrumbs on June 27, 2019 to give patriots a head up that the end game of defeating the deep state is at hand. Now, we don't need to reread what we've already read, so let's come down here. Okay. Dear reader, be warned that this article is going to take you down a deep rabbit hole you may not be able to fully extricate yourself from once you go down it. Some of the discussion will be quite disturbing to many. Some revelations will be hard to swallow, and many readers may not be able to accept these revelations as true right away. Followers of Q are likely already familiar with much of the information contained in this article, but most have maintained silence on the matter. This is due to the following reasons. The subject matter is difficult to prevent without invoking a certain level of discomfort, and two, much of this information will strain I have a hard time with some words. Okay, I'm not going to say it, but it's this word right here, and yes, I know what it is, and yes, I know what it means. I used to have a speech impediment, and every once in a while, certain words I just can't say. It's embarrassing, but what can I do? I work at it, and that's all I can do. However, now that Jeffrey Epstein has been arrested, the facts presented in this article will begin to appear in the news. This is a preview of the news to come. Hang on here. The Epstein case will have the effect of a snowball rolling downhill, D5, remember? The most destructive level of an avalanche, and Q always brings that up. So anyway, the Epstein case will have the effect of a snowball rolling downhill until it becomes a full-blown avalanche. Q has claimed that once the Great Awakening has run its course regarding the satanic acts of members of Hollywood and DC elites, these deep state criminals will no longer feel safe in public. The streets will not be safe for them, says Q. This is because their crimes are so heinous, so difficult to accept. The same may go for those in the fake news media who are complicit in protecting these evil people. The coming onslaught of documentation will show the fake news to be the enemy of the people, as Trump has said all along. So proceed cautiously in the reading of this article. Do not click on links that warn of graphic descriptions unless the choice to do so is made with eyes open to the possibility of feeling disturbed by the information you might encounter. Now, I cannot go into all of this because I will be kicked off YouTube, and you know that. So I'm going to be very cautious, proceed very cautiously. I can't even leave the link to this because they are checking links now. And so it is on the website godfatherpolitics.com, and just search for Jeffrey Epstein and you will find the article for yourself. So, Q researchers know to be looking for messages in Trump's speeches and tweets. From time to time, Trump misspells words in a Twitter post or makes an unusual statement that does not match the rest of what he's been saying. The Democrat-controlled media always use these odd comments as an occasion for ridicule, but there is usually a method to Trump's madness. If interested in the solving of Trump's ciphers and riddles, please explore Serial Brain 2 and QProofs.com. On the 4th of July, Trump did not disappoint the Q movement. It was raining outside, and this blurred the teleprompter screen, so there was some doubt at first as to whether Trump was misreading a blurry rain-streaked text or was actually intending to say of the Continental Army that our army manned the air, it rammed the ramparts, it took over the airports, it did everything it had to do. Earlier in the speech, however, Trump had made mention of the Wright brothers, and this may have been a bit of a clue that the strange utterance about airports may have been intended as a riddle. When the call sign of Endgame 20 was later confirmed for one of the helicopters in Trump's flyover event, the riddle was both confirmed and solved. The patriots fighting the deep state had taken control of the airports and would soon take an airport action that would start the endgame of Trump and the Q team's chess game against the deep state. It would only take 48 hours for Jeffrey Epstein to be taken into custody at Teterboro Airport in Bergen County, New Jersey, in an undercover operation carried out by the Patriots. Why Trump was recruited by patriots in the military to run for president. Okay, well, that's a whole different article. We won't get into that. I think we already know. According to Q, Trump was recruited by Admiral Rogers on behalf of a patriot group in the military that was concerned about the Obama Clinton 16-year plan to destroy America. It was also Rogers who tipped Trump off about his being spied upon in Trump Tower, prompting the Trump transition team to vacate those premises. Before asking Trump to run, Rogers' NSA would have investigated Trump to make sure he was a clean and honest person, one that could not be easily blackmailed by the deep state. And that just goes without saying, because wouldn't it be embarrassing if they conscripted him to run and he just had all sorts of skeletons in his closet? That would be a little embarrassing, don't you think? Yes. One of the things that attracted Rogers to Trump was the fact that Rogers was the only individual contacted by the district attorney in New York who offered to help with the investigation of Jeffrey Epstein. The deep state, and now this was back when he was charged in 2012, the deep state propaganda media will try to connect Trump to Epstein in nefarious ways to suggest that Trump was somehow involved in pedophilia, but as the fake Steele dossier, this is not going to work. Trump has a long history of disapproving Epstein's evil behavior. According to Dave at X22 report, 1, Trump is not in the flight log to the Lolita Island, not even once, and I did look. He's not in there. In order to render him blackmailable, but Trump did not take the bait. 2, when Epstein assaulted a young girl at Mar-a-Lago, Trump banned him for life. 3, Trump went voluntarily to the police to give a statement. At the time, the police commented he could not have been more forthcoming in his cooperation. And 4, Trump was so boring at Studio 54. He doesn't drink, he doesn't take drugs, and he didn't follow the pack. But what he did do was he saw everything that was going on. Think about what he knows, because he played in the same arena as these individuals but didn't cooperate. He just watched and observed, and he has the information. Perhaps the most important goal of all for President Trump has been the shutting down of the deep state pedophile rings and human trafficking. This would mean restoring the Constitution and reinstituting the rule of law within the sovereign territory of the United States, as well as controlling the U.S. border. There are good reasons that Trump prefers not to have his intelligence briefings given by members of the CIA, besides having colluded with other 3-letter agencies to spy on Trump during his presidential campaign. Deep seat renegades connected to the CIA would eventually plot to get Trump entangled in the Khashoggi incident in a way that would upset his efforts at shutting down the child sex trafficking out of Saudi Arabia. The deep state goal being to keep the region unstable, thus creating places for traffickers to more easily hide their activities. Sex trafficking is a huge moneymaker for the deep state, and their media have been egging on those who would use force to ignite military conflict. And that is true. These areas that are in upheaval, like example Haiti, they're pockets for traffickers and others that would do even more nefarious things to them. Because it's a huge moneymaker, they are able to fund all their black ops through this type of activity, and it just makes perfect sense. Sex trafficking is a huge. Okay, we just read that, and let's hang on here. I think I skipped down a little bit too far. Okay, the roll call of those who have served the deep state's interests above the people's include every president after Reagan except for Donald Trump. Trump has rejected the pedophile culture of sex trafficking and satanic ritual abuse even before he fully understood just how bad it was. Some celebrities were Satanists from childhood, or at least were reared in a satanic home. Others in the movies, the media, and the government have been controlled by a deep state that often arranges for uninitiated celebrities to be invited to private parties wherein surprise events are sprung, scandalous happenings that make those in attendance vulnerable to extortion. Their mere presence at one of these occasions that feature such things as salacious nudity, sexual acts, or injurious rituals involving children is used to initiate them into the club. Trump was always careful never to be ensnared in such unvetted goings-on. Elites knew this and feared it. Since Trump was not a member of their club, he would be free as president to come after the deep state. Now, on November 11th, 2017, Q dropped some important breadcrumbs. Here is what Q posted. Hard to swallow. Important to progress. Who are the puppet masters? House of Saud, 6 plus, minus 4 trillion, plus Rothschild, 6 plus, 2 trillion, Soros, 6 plus, 1 trillion. Focus on the above three. Public wealth disclosures, false. Many governments of the world feed the eye. Think slush funds, feeder. Think war, feeder. Think environmental pacts, feeder. Triangle has 3 sides. Eye of providence. Follow the bloodlines. What is the keystone? Does Satan exist? Does the thought of Satan exist? Who worships Satan? What is a cult? Epstein Island. What is a temple? What occurs in a temple? Worship. Why is the temple on top of a mountain? How many levels might, and by the way, traditionally all through the Bible, the temples to false gods were always built on high places. And that is a fact. You can check that out for yourself. How many levels might exist below? What is the significance of the colors, design, and symbols above the dome? Why is this relevant? Who are the puppet masters? Have the puppet masters traveled to this island? When? How often? Why? Vladimir Putin, the New World Order, worships Satan. Q. So, the unriddled version of the above drop would go something like this. Some disturbing information needs to be thought about. Which families pull the strings of power? The Saud family is the wealthiest of the 3 sixes, with the over 4 trillion. The Rothschild family owns over 2 trillion, making them second most powerful of the 3 sixes. George Soros' family controls over 1 trillion, making his family the 3rd 6 in power. These 3 families are the main puppet masters, adding together to 3 sixes. To do Satan's work. These families never appear on lists of the richest people in the world with their true wealth reported. The Illuminati, a satanic secret society that has infiltrated the upper echelons of Freemasonry, the Catholic Church, and other important associations, businesses, foundations, and charities, has as its symbol the all-seeing eye, and the government of the world finance these evil people, feeding the eye, as it were, by supporting the central banks or Arabian oil and open society foundations. Politicians receive kickbacks from money given to support foreign aid, business deals, and nonprofit organizations. The deep state desires war and customarily finances both sides of a war through the globalist central banking system, then helps to rebuild both sides after the war is over. The deep state writes environmental rules that will exact taxation that is crippling to the economies of industrialized nations, putting people out of work and weakening nation states globally. The 3 wealthiest families are working together to dominate gold politics and continuously work toward one world government. The Illuminati, with their mark of the Eye of Providence, are still with us, even if they are active primarily within groups they have infiltrated. This is a reference to the 13 Illuminati bloodlines that cooperate to run the New World Order. The keystone is an important symbol of the Freemasons, all whom believe in a supreme being, with many high-degree members being Satan worshippers. The Q team believes Satan does exist, and that many elites, even if they do not believe in Satan, find the idea powerful in their lives due to the satanic beliefs of their friends. This needs to be understood because the deep state puppet masters are worshippers of Satan. A cult is a group of believers in a deity or devil into which one must typically be initiated. Such groups are often difficult, if not impossible, to leave once they have joined. That is the truth, because I was part of a cult, and I outline that story in my book. And not that I'm trying to sell books, I'm not, but if you are interested, it is available on Amazon, and you can get the electronic version very cheaply. And actually, I don't make much money from those books. Amazon keeps most of it, so just so you know. All right, and where were we? Jeffrey Epstein's private island, named Little St. James, but often referred to as Lolita Island, is an evil place where satanic ritual abuse occurs. This is a temple on Lolita Island, which can be used for performing rituals. Epstein's satanic temple is situated atop a mountain because the temple was built to function as the entrance to a network of tunnels leading to chambers below, several levels deep. The same owl adorns this temple as is used at the Bohemian Grove as known as the Great Owl of Bohemia. Members of the families already have visited Epstein's Lolita Island. Members of the family already specifically mentioned, as well as the members of other Illuminati bloodlines, have visited Epstein's Lolita Island. It's been widely reported, although not in the deep state controlled media, that Vladimir Putin has said the New World Order worships Satan. Now, I'm not sure too much because this is just a lot of background on this stuff, and not anything that I don't see anything here that we don't already know. But there's a lot more here, okay, along with some informative links. So I'm going to, again, tell you where to find this. It is godfatherpolitics.com. I cannot leave a link to this for reasons that you are aware of, I'm sure. And just look for Jeffrey Epstein. You will find this article, and you can read it in its entirety. All right, now let's go back. All right. This is interesting in talking about Jeffrey Epstein, and Jeffrey Epstein is pushing to do house arrest in his, I can't remember how big this mansion is in Manhattan, but it is the largest private home in Manhattan, and it is very lush, luxurious, and he wants to do house arrest there. Right. And this person, Scott Heschinger, says, meanwhile, a man I represent is jailed on Rikers right now, unable to afford bail after successfully doing check-ins for the last 9 years because he failed to update his new address when he recently became homeless. Faces up to 4 years in prison. Epstein didn't check in once since 2011, and he is required to because he is a registered sex offender. And that was part of his release from prison. He needs to check in. Well, he hasn't. Nobody's called him on it. Nobody's done anything. And this, and he is responding to this, New York Police Department let convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein skip judge-ordered check-ins. Well, let's take a look at this, shall we? New York Police Department let convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein skip judge-ordered check-ins. This was from July 10th. Convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein never once checked in with city cops in the 8+ years since a Manhattan judge ordered him to do so every 90 days. And the New York Police Department says it's fine with that. All who you are. It's all who you are. You know, there was a young guy convicted, and I don't know how this relates really. It just popped into my mind because I read about it as I was reading about all this. And there was a young guy, and he was convicted of stealing a backpack, and he spent, I don't know, he was facing a lot of years in prison, and he ended up killing himself in prison. And he had always said he was innocent and maintained his innocence and was innocent, and it's sad. And then there's people like this. I mean, he stole a backpack and was sentenced to all these years in prison. This guy does who knows what. Who knows how many people he is responsible for murdering? Who knows how many people he's responsible for raping, for trafficking? Yeah. And he doesn't even have to do a check-in. Are you kidding me? After being labeled a worst of the worst level 3 sex offender in 2011, Epstein should have reported in person to verify his address 34 times before he was arrested Saturday on federal child sex trafficking charges. Violating requirements of the state's 1996 Sex Offender Registration Act, including checking in with law enforcement, is a felony punishable by up to 4 years in prison for a first offense. Subsequent violations carry a sentence of up to 7 years each. But the New York Police Department hasn't required the billionaire financier who owns a $77 million Upper East Side townhouse to check in since he registered as a sex offender in New York over the controversial 2008 plea bargain he struck in Florida amid allegations he sexually abused scores of underage girls in his Palm Beach mansion, which he did. Several current and former high-ranking New York Police Department officials were shocked to learn from the Post that the department had given Epstein a pass on his periodic check-ins, with one saying, "It makes no sense." The New York Police Department can't modify a court order, a source said. If the judge says he has to report here, he has to report here. The New York Police Department, another source said Epstein was supposed to go to SOMU, an acronym for the New York Police Department's Sex Offender Monitoring Unit, located in the Manhattan Criminal Courthouse at 100 Center Street. If he didn't, then he's in violation, and they could have arrested him, the source said. The New York Police Department maintains that Epstein, 66, wasn't required to check in with New York cops because he claims his primary residence is a private island, Little St. James Island in the U.S. Virgin Islands. But State Supreme Court Justice Ruth Pickholtz considered and rejected that very argument by defense lawyer Sandra Masciumisi during the January 18th, 2011 hearing. Masciumisi insisted that Epstein wasn't a resident of New York and that his 7-story townhouse at 9 East 71st Street was a vacation home at which he had no plans to ever stay longer than a period of 10 days. Pickholtz insisted that Epstein would have to abide by the mandatory reporting requirement for level 3 offenders. "I'm sorry, he may have to come here every 90 days, she said, according to an official transcript. He can give up his New York home if he does not want to come every 90 days. That was the same hearing where, in a highly controversial move, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office tried to argue on Epstein's behalf that he should be deemed a low-risk level 1 offender, which would have exempted him from the reporting requirements. If you call that level 1, then there's no hope for us. The DA's office has said that a prosecutor in this case, I'm sorry, it's hot in here and it makes me yawn. It's very hot in here. How hot is it? I don't know. It's so hot I can't even explain how hot it is. Anyway, in March, a New York Police Department spokeswoman told the Washington Post that Epstein never checked in following Pickholtz's ruling. Asked repeatedly about that admission this week, the New York Police Department declined to comment. Oh, I bet they did. Asked about her ruling, state court spokesman Lucian Calfin said Pickholtz stands by what she said in court on the record at the hearing and has no further role in any type of enforcement. That's not the court's role. In addition to verifying a sex offender's address, the 90-day check-ins allow cops to take a new photograph if the offender's appearance has changed so it can be updated online. The New York Police Department cop assigned to monitor Epstein has repeatedly complained to Advanced Sex Crimes Unit that Epstein wasn't in compliance, according to a source familiar with the matter. But prosecutors told the cop to merely send Epstein a letter reminding him of his reporting requirement. Yeah, a letter. Hey, by the way, you're not in compliance. Do you think Epstein doesn't know that? Anyway, our office vigorously prosecutes all failure to, I am so sorry. I'm going to take a drink of cold water so that perhaps I will stop that. I know you're all out there yawning and because it's truly contagious when someone yawns, and I apologize. All right. Our office vigorously prosecutes all failure to verify cases. Our prosecutors did not and would not disclose the discourage the New York Police Department from making an arrest, Vance spokesman Danny Frost said. New York Police spokesman Philip Walczak said the SOMU monitored Epstein while his reporting address was in New York City. The New York Police Department is proud of its hard work alongside our federal partners to make the case against Epstein that lead to his arrest for his vile crimes, and that will ultimately bring justice for his victims. Now, the thing is, Epstein tried to get around this by saying, yeah, but my primary residence is this island. And maybe it's true, maybe it's not true, but the judge had said that he still needs to come back to New York every 90 days to check in. He didn't do that. And I think he pretty much knew he was in violation. But people like that think that they are above the law because they've been doing it for so long and getting away with it so long, and they have so many powerful people in their pockets that they just thumb their nose at the law. So anyway, let's go back here. And time is getting on. I'm not sure how long I've been talking, but now this by Carlos Mucha says the New York Police Department cop assigned to monitor Epstein has repeatedly complained to Vance Sex Crimes Unit that Epstein wasn't in compliance, according to a source familiar with the matter, but prosecutors told the cop to merely send Epstein a letter reminding him of his reporting requirement. Yeah. Okay, and this is about the Twitter's just in, Twitter goes down as White House social media summit underway. So we spoke about that earlier, and here is some, and this is what you'd get when you tried to go out to Twitter. Something is technically wrong. Thanks for noticing. We're going to fix it up and have things back to normal soon. Well, sure it did once the social media summit was over. Twitter crashed as soon as the social media summit at the White House commenced on Thursday afternoon. Twitter went down just before 3 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday. President Donald Trump is gathering conservative groups at the White House on Thursday for a summit on social media bias and censorship. The Gateway pundit's Jim Hoft is attending the White House Tech Censorship Summit today, and Twitter goes down as the summit began. How convenient. Oh yes, it's very, very convenient, isn't it? And this is the outage map. Fascinating. So pretty much, I mean, I wish that they had used a little darker color, but Washington DC is in there as really dark yellow, so it must have been totally out there, and in the west coast here, but all through here is out, and all here up to Canada, and all up into Canada here, because I know mine, I didn't think that it had gone out, but it did. So anyway, there you go. All right, now I think I'm going to leave this here. I've got a ton more of Q-related news, and I may come back later tonight, but I do have some errands that must be run, and especially I need to go and check on my mother and my father-in-law. And so I'll be back later tonight, and I may post another video, but we have a ton more of news, and it's all important, I think. So perhaps I'll try to do another one tonight, but it will be late. So I'm just giving you a heads up. If I do another one tonight, it will be a late one. So I just want you to be aware of that and not looking for something that's not going to be there for several hours. But all right, thank you guys so much for listening. I appreciate it. I appreciate your interest in these videos, really, because I wouldn't be doing it unless there was some interest, and there is. So I appreciate your comments and your feedback and your encouragement and all of that, and your support, because I really couldn't do this without it. And I am demonetized, and well, we all know the reason for that. Censorship. They don't like what people like myself have to say, and others. I'm not the only one in this boat by any means. So I'm in good company because there's a lot of us that have been demonetized. So anyway, that's it for now. And you guys have a good rest of the evening, and I will try to make it back. But again, no promises. So that's it. Stay safe. Have a good night. And keep seeking truth, because deception bites. Good night.